Welcome to John Versus episode 16. With me this week, I'm very pleased to welcome for the first time here on the show, the Webbs, Chad and Kerri. How you guys doing?
Doing great, thanks. How
Doing
are you?
Great, yeah.
And I always start off with apologizing. You guys are good with horror movies, though. I don't. It's a small apology to you, not a big. I bring on non-horror fans and I make them watch this stuff, and I really feel bad. But you guys have definitely you've done this already. You guys are old pros. But I will offer a small apology because you weren't planning on watching this movie. Without spoiling what we talked about, what were your general feelings coming out of it?
I mean, well, first of all, I want to compliment. I love that opening to the show. That's the first time I saw it, and I thought it was hilarious. I was, but yeah, the actual movie, I thought sometimes you gotta actually take a step back to films that you go, this is kind of barely a movie. Just to remind yourself that the normal bad movies that you watch are actually better made than you think, you know?
Oh yeah.
And so that's what I would say with this one is it feels kind of like The Room, but like not as fun and not funny. Although there were a couple times we did chuckle, but it was like, I don't know. It was almost just like it's so ridiculous kind of a deal. But
yeah,
I don't know. It's hard to describe. It's not very good.
It's a jagged edge thing. Kerri, how'd you feel?
Yeah, it wasn't very good. I would say I've seen worse, but not. I haven't seen many worse films. Yeah, and I do think that's a good point, Chad, that like in the grand scheme of things, we typically, when we think something's bad, it's still like well made and well produced, and the plot is for the most part consistent. And this it was a movie technically.
Yeah. So we'll get right into it. Like we're going back to not the origins of Jagged Edge, but we are going back to 2021. So for Jagged Edge, that's probably like 50 movies ago because they churned them out so frequently. But 2021, they were still a fledgling company, and they put out a little movie. They wanted to cash in like everybody else is cashed in, and they put the word Amityville in the title. But the noun they used was Scarecrow.
Let's not forget why we're doing this.
Something isn't right. First thing, that needs to come down.
Why wasn't there any corn in the field?
Stuff never grew.
Mom purchased this land for God knows what reason.
I've never liked scarecrows.
This isn't any old scarecrow. Locals say that the land is thirsty. Someone is out here. Charles, it's okay. It's just straw. It's just straw.
Hurry now! What do you think that thing is?
And that's the Amityville Scarecrow, everybody. Once again, normally with Jagged Edge movies, the trailer makes the movie look okay. I mean, it actually makes it look like, I might watch that on a fun little Saturday afternoon. But trust us, it's not good. Your initial thoughts now that we can mention Amityville Scarecrow and everything about it. What's the first thing that hits you in this movie that you want to talk about?
I wanted to say, watching that trailer, the title card at the end of that trailer is much better than the title card that actually appears in the movie.
Yeah.
The title card in the movie is literally the Amityville Scarecrow in like Arial font.
And I'll put that right here.
Yeah,
Yeah.
this like the little names look, I think, more professional and better than,
Yeah,
than the title card.
Feels like kind of like a student film.
Yeah. No, someone literally just typed into Word
Yeah.
or Google Docs Amityville Scarecrow and put it on a black screen, and then that was the title card.
A great title card. So I guess I'll just start by asking, like, I think we talked about this already, but as far as Jagged Edge movies go, is this your first Jagged Edge movie?
I think so.
It actually is. Yeah, we didn't get around to the Winnie the Pooh one. Yeah, that's like the most famous one, I think.
That is the most successful one to date. Yes.
Yeah.
Oh God.
So this is 2 years before Winnie the Pooh. Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know how many more we're gonna watch. Basically.
If I'm doing you the service of you never watching another one again, I've done my job. Though, like I said last week, like I've seen the concept. I've seen some of the clips from Winnie the Pooh 2, and like it's getting better. So like if this studio turned a corner now, and all of a sudden it's gonna be a legitimate studio, like wow, like then people should research this back catalog to see what they missed, because they've missed so much horrific stuff. Chad, what was the initial thing that jumped out of you at this movie?
With the movie, I would just say, like, if I had to like boil it down to one word, it'd be confusion. Just because like Carrie was alluding to, like there's so many like plot points that they bring up, and none of them really like mesh with each other, and then some of them seem to kind of like contradict each other. But not only that, it's like I'm not one who's seen a lot of Amityville movies, so I was just very confused. Like, wait, this says Amityville, and I think they're talking about like something like the New York Amityville crimes house or whatever, but I think this is in Europe, and I was so confused. I thought their accents were fake at first, and then I was like, no, wait, I think they're actually just in Europe. And so there was that, and then you actually get into the plot of the thing, and like I was saying, it's just so talky. There's just so much explanation of the relationship of these sisters, and their mom lied to them, and just this whole backstory with how the Scarecrow came to be. And I think there's only like a couple deaths in the whole movie, like 3.
1, 2, 3.
There's 5. I think there's
five.
And we'll get into all of them, believe me.
But it's so sparse, and it's just like it's not.
Yeah, they're okay. Yeah.
And I was telling Carrie,
check out the Scarecrow. There's 5.
True. Yeah. As we were watching the movie, Carrie had asked John, is this movie appropriate for to have a kid in the room while we watch it, because we have limited time sometimes? And I would say, like, sometimes no, but like it's so talky most of the time, we're fine with him being in the room.
Yeah, it's like a sub 90-minute movie, and they spend like, it's like every Jagged Edge movie. It's not like meant to be funny. It's played totally straight.
Yeah.
There's very little like risque thing. Like it's not like an 80s slasher where like teens are smoking pot and like going off and getting laid. It's very, I mean, there's like a little scene in the beginning that's like totally PG, and that's it.
Yep. We saw it in the trailer, actually.
Yeah.
Oh, and then the hands on the thing, like in Titanic.
Yeah. There's some, I think the biggest thing, I'll just rip the Band-Aid right off. Like when they actually do the exposition, and you're right, so many plot points, they could have dumped like 8 of the plot points and it would have been a much easier to follow movie. But the one huge plot point that like really is like a middle finger to the horror community is when they explain the entire Scarecrow's backstory. It's Freddy Krueger's backstory.
I wrote that in my notes. I said it's a Nightmare on Elm Street ripoff. Yes.
Like, they even like he did the same. He abused children, and the parents killed him in the same exact way they killed Freddy Krueger.
The other parents and I, we wanted revenge. So before he was arrested, we locked Lester in the workshop. We set fire to him.
The only difference here is the building that they burned him down in is still standing. like it was never set on fire.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The main plot points, though. Okay, no, go ahead, Kerri.
No, well, I was just gonna say there are also, before they get to that kind of main exposition of the Scarecrow, there's also these like two little mini expositions that kind of contradict each other. Like one, the teenager is like reading a newspaper, and it's like, oh, I can't even remember. It was like there were these two brothers that heard voices telling them to kill and telling them to burn the house down. And so they burned the house down.
No, look. Amityville murders.
The Richards family was slain in 1972 by their two sons, Donald Richards Jr. and Mitchell Richards. In total, they shot 5 members of their family within the family home, going from bedroom to bedroom with a shotgun. He shot them dead.
And then there's another one at a campfire where the dad of both the girls is saying, which is a whole other thing, is saying like, oh, there was a guy who heard voices and then he shot everyone.
Go on.
Oh. Well, some guy who lived in a house on the land, he flipped out, had visions of the devil. So the devil told him to do things. Then one day he just picked up his gun and shot everyone down. Locals say that the land is cursed and the voices still lurk.
And like there's so many different, it seems like they like just like filmed like 3 different scenarios that led to this Scarecrow being possessed or becoming Freddy Krueger, and then they just like decided to keep them all.
Just keep everything.
Yeah, it's like they have this whole like bad luck story. I'm obviously, if you know the Amityville story,
Yeah.
it's in Long Island. It's a father goes crazy and like attacks his family. This is, Chad's right, in England. They're driving on the other side of the car. They're driving on the other side of the road. They have those weird long rectangular license plates. They are not anywhere near Long Island. They are definitely in England. But Amityville is there now as well, and they've changed the entire Amityville story to those two stories that definitely contradict each other. That is 100%.
I'll say they also talk about how after the summer camp is Amityville, the summer camp incident happened, their mom moved them to the UK. So it's very confusing. Like, are they in the UK or are they not? Like,
this isn't the first Jagged Edge movie that like they're clearly in England, but they're pretending to be somewhere else. But they're not even trying to hide that they're not.
Right.
It's weird. I mean, the only American thing I noticed is that sign for the Amityville cornfield and campground has an American phone number on it. It's like 555-0178. It's not like plus 017. It's not like a British phone number. So maybe it is supposed to be America, but they never drive that point home, ever. Yeah. And then I do believe the other thing you mentioned is like the weird family drama, which I'll try to summarize. So we have the one lady, Mary, was the original wife of Derek. But then Derek somehow just goes off with the sister, Tina. And there's 2 kids, Harriet and Lucy are the kids, I believe. Is that right?
Yeah.
Probably.
Yeah, they're Harriet and Lucy are the kids. I don't know if they're both his kids, or I feel they are because they both call him dad.
No, but there was an explanation where Lucy, who is the daughter of the woman who left the original wife to be with him, was like, oh, I felt so sad when he left you to come move in with mom and me. So
right. So
kind of sounded like maybe not but she definitely calls him dad in the movie.
Yeah, the girls are so close in age. You're like, would he just like leave her with like a newborn and then immediately have like Irish twins like with her sister?
Yeah.
I hope not. That's crazy. Yeah. So anyway, but I think the weirdest thing and the thing that like, I would never do is like, okay, so that's the point of contention between the 2 older sisters. And now the mother has passed away and she's left them this, I don't know what it's supposed to be. They say it's a campground, but it's just like 3 RVs parked on the side of the road. Nowhere near a lake or anything, just like in the country. And then on the land, there's also a bunch of like weird buildings, abandoned cars. Like it's so off the wall. But pause. If you ever start watching Jagged Edge movies, you'll recognize this location because they use this location in about 5 other movies. And it's whatever they want it to be. It's a campground. It's a place to park RVs. It's that thing in the back where a cult lives. Whatever they want to use it for, they've used this setting plenty of times before. But this time, it is a campground / cornfield / whatever that is the remnants of the property where the Amityville, as they understand it, tragedies happened, which has nothing to do with the actual tragedies of this dude. I don't know if he's killing kids or abusing kids. It's never very clear. It's Freddy Krueger.
Yeah.
Who's the Scarecrow. So
yeah, I think it's interesting because like talking about the reusing the locations in other movies and just like how, you know, kind of shabby it looks. Like they don't even really try to up the scale of it or like do any like production design to really make it look like something. You know, I mean, these are low budget films. What can you do? But, you know, we look over at like the Hollywood system, they're always reusing locations and like reusing even built sets and things like that. But they're actually like doing it in a smart way or using the camera in a way to not make it look obvious or not make it look like, you know, like you said, like it looks kind of like a redneck hangout spot or whatever, rather than like a true, like this used to be a camp and make it look really creepy or something like that. And, you know,
they use the same scenes too. Go ahead, Carrie.
Yeah, I like how they also say this, no one's been on the land since the 80s, but the RVs that are parked there and the cars that are parked there clearly have not been sitting there vacant and unused since the 80s.
One of the cars starts.
These have been here years. I wonder if they still work.
Yeah.
Yeah. But like I was saying, so yeah, and actually, like, so there's the scene where they're having a campfire in front of the RV. That exact scene of another group of people having a campfire in front of that same RV happens in another Jagged Edge movie after this movie. So it's like we get it. I think we'll jump back to the cold open really quick, just to show that there's nobody been on this land. In the cold open, 2 teens or early 20-something people are clearly going to this abandoned site, and this guy has, and I don't know what the security is this place, because these are the offices of the campground, and he's gotten in there and he's turned it into like a love shack. For him and his girlfriend, and they have the hand on the window, like you said, and they are dispatched very quickly.
Yeah.
And it's so like the explanation of the Scarecrow too. He's like, "Yeah, my friends and I just found that Scarecrow and we put it up." Like, weird. Okay, cool.
Me and the boys came up here the other night, fucking around. We found the Scarecrow in the back. Thought it would be funny to put it up.
What do you guys think of that cold open?
It was unsatisfying, and I think set up the rest of the movie, because I was like, well, maybe if at least it's a bad movie, like we'll get some cool kills. But no, you barely see, especially in these 2 deaths, you really don't see the kills at all, especially the second one. I think it's
I don't even understand what happened in the second one. She just like falls over. It's like, ah.
Yeah, you see some blood hit a sign, I think, or maybe that's the first one and I'm confusing them. And then it's like, oh I guess they're both dead now. Like,
also, let me point out that sign is nowhere near where she gets killed. So that guy has like a Herculean effort to spray blood like 250 feet away from the kill.
Yeah. For me, noticing the thing is just, I noticed right off the bat just what we were in for with the acting in the movie. And I think that's one of the big things that, like, it's so bad that I'm just sitting there and I'm like, how do you act good? And then you see like people in like films that aren't Jagged Edge acting, and then you're like, how do you get that? Like they're saying the lines, but it doesn't, it's not convincing. They seem like they're not even actors, and they just like, hey, do you want to be in a movie? All right, let's film this right now. And so yeah, and this persists throughout the movie, and it gets really cringe at times, especially when you talk about like the adult sisters and stuff. A lot of the times, like there's one part towards the end when one of the daughters is dead. Yeah. And the mom like is like doing this big, like she's going for the Oscar, trying to, you know, so sad about her daughter, and then the aunt is just like kind of just standing there.
She's like,
they're always just off to the side, like waiting for their cue.
Yeah, she's just like. And then in another scene earlier, that same woman, the same character, she's watching a video of her mom talking about a dead sister she doesn't even remember, and she's like,
"A daughter, Judy. She was 3 years old when you were born, Mary."
And meanwhile, her niece is lying dead, horribly murdered. She's like,
let's talk about that video they find. So like they find this first of all, you want to talk about anachronisms. Like they find this like kind of modern-ish like mini DV camcorder, and the video starts up and the mom's like, it's 1993, and I was immediately like, that didn't exist in 1993. that camcorder is not from 1993 at all.
What's that?
It's the video quality is awesome for 1993 as well. Yeah. I mean, I don't know if you guys were filming things in 93, but it was not that good.
Yeah, we
also they plug it in without charging it. They don't even charge it. They just pick it up and start it. If it's been sitting there for 30 years, it's not going to just start.
Is there anything on there? Is this thing on?
That's right. Yeah, that was a weird part of the movie.
Yeah, sure. And they also, the mom explained a bunch of stuff. Some of it was new, but it was mostly stuff that they had just discovered on their own.
And she was just confirming it in the video. And it was like, oh, what a convenience. The mom left you a videotape confirming everything you were just talking about.
Yeah.
And then, okay, let's get into the Scarecrow, though. Obviously, the Scarecrow's in the box art. The Scarecrow's the main big bad in the movie.
Yep.
I don't understand. I mean, we're used to our Jasons and our Michael Myers and all these people. I'm used to like tanks, you know. I didn't know we should just be arming random women with frying pans and they can kick the living shit out of anybody. Because the amount of just times they're just like, ugh, and just like disabling this thing for like long periods of time is crazy. What did you guys think of the interaction between our antagonists and the protagonists?
Yeah, I felt the exact same way because they just like he kind of gets into, he forces open the trailer or the trailer that they're in, and one of them just has a frying pan, is able to just hit him a few times, and they run, and they kind of very easily outrun him and go into a different location. I think at the lodge or whatever they call it. And he's just kind of like stumbling around, like
it's also really funny, just like the inconsistencies of like his MO.
Yeah,
because it's like, you know, the one scene with the dad and the husband or whatever, he goes up to the Scarecrow and he's like, oh, it's fake, and then he turns around, everything's fine.
Just draw. Just draw.
Girls, it's okay. It's just draw. It's just draw.
And then of course he gets, killed immediately. And then it's like, it feels like I've seen that same bit like in so many other movies. But that guy,
it's the Jason X, like he just wanted his machete back. We're cool.
Right. But that guy, nothing really happens to after that. But for some reason after that, his whole thing is he's trying to shove a straw in people's mouths.
Yeah, right? It doesn't make any sense. And then I got to shout out that a rarity in slashers. They get their cell phones to work and they call the police, and the police send their A-team to a woman to say, this person's trying to kill us. So they send one cop who is just, I don't know. I'm not going to, I don't know. Maybe there are policemen that look like this woman, but she does not look like a police officer. She does not look like she could have passed any sort of physical test to be a police officer. She's just a librarian in a bulletproof vest.
Who goes there?
It was me. Harriet Childs. I was the one who called. You've got to help us. Our mums are back there and something's after us.
Slow down. What do you mean, something?
Right? Would you agree?
Yeah.
And she's dispatched rather quickly by the Scarecrow. And then we're kind of like boiling it down to the end of the movie when they finish off the Scarecrow in like the easiest way possible, where basically like, again, they bust in and like they just kind of like hit him, and he goes on the ground, and like he's on the ground like just watching this lady dump gasoline on him, and he's just like, yeah, this is cool. He's not even like a human being. He's like a supernatural spirit, and he just takes it.
And it ends with you.
Yeah, well, earlier in the movie, he got ran over by a car and like kind of mysteriously replaced the run over version with a scarecrow, maybe, or it wasn't very clear. But he was run over by a car and then kind of reappeared somewhere else.
Yeah, like he teleports and then replaces himself with an actual scarecrow. And if he has that power. I guess that's why we have a sequel, I guess. I don't know. But like that's a great power. Like bank on that.
Yeah. I also like how, because I was sitting there waiting, like when she was pouring the gasoline, I was like, there's no way they have enough in the budget to actually do a stunt here. So they're either going to replace it with a fake scarecrow and it's going to look really dumb, or it's not going to show it at all. And it did the latter. And it's like just her face, like, you know.
The fire is off screen.
Fuck you.
Yeah. So.
Well, I think we've covered most of the major stuff in the movie. Is there anything else in the movie that we didn't touch on that you want to point out here?
I'll say the one compliment I have is that the scarecrow design wasn't bad.
It wasn't. That's actually a good point. I was sitting there trying to like notice like little flaws in the costume, and I was like, solid, actually.
I'd agree. And they didn't make the mistake of having him talk, which would have ruined it. It's just like, it's just an actual, like the spirit of this child abuser is in a actual scarecrow, which is, I believe it, given the context they've given us.
Yeah, and if they could have had some sort of like nuance to the actual origin of what it was, like a janitor workshopman guy.
It was the
caretaker. If they could have had like a legit like nuanced thing, then maybe they could have created something that could have been more interesting to create in sequels. Kind of like how Art the Clown is becoming sort of a thing now, because it's got like a nuanced style to him. Even if you don't love the first movie that he was in, I feel like he's gonna like become amazing.
They're unraveling lore. Like that'll never happen here. I don't think.
No.
Well, like we do every week, the champ Luis Boos has asked us to, if anybody is going to be unfortunate enough to not heed our warnings and watch this movie anyway, at least drink while you're doing it. So we will talk about that now. And I always let the guests go first. What do you think is a good thing you can accompany this movie with?
I had one, and now I'm trying to think. Do you have anything, Carrie? Like maybe like the start of a new plot point?
Yeah, I would say actually
Or-
talking about the background of Amityville and the campsite.
Anytime the action pauses for them to just do exposition about Amityville, take a shot. Yeah, that'll get you very drunk.
Yeah.
My drinking game is a little. You're gonna, as the movie goes on, you're gonna have more and more opportunities to it. But anytime a character appears on screen where they have just blood on them that you as a normal person would have wiped off your face at this point, take a drink. Because like there's so many like ugly shots of just like blood. Like they had a bloody nose, they went like, and they just leave it there. Every time you're like, that's gross, take a shot.
That's brilliant. I love that. I don't know. I was thinking about like maybe like talk every time somebody like, I think this only happens once, but doesn't talk in like a European accent, because the cop that shows up is speaking in an American accent.
And the two sisters have American accents.
Okay, so maybe that, but that might be too much drinking.
Anytime there's a nuanced accent, anytime you hear a new accent, because I've seen in these movies, there's some movies they have where it's like somebody's clearly like straight up British, someone's Scottish, someone's Irish, someone's Australian, and this one's American, and they're all the same pool of actors in every single movie, but they just throw them all in this place. You're supposed to figure out where they are, and like I don't get it. I don't get it at all. Jagged Edge, everybody. But that'll bring us towards the end of the show. Chad, Kerri, where can they find you if they want to see more of you guys? Where you at online?
Chad and I have a show on Hunter Chambliss's network, Nerd Entertainment Network, called Welcome to Primetime, where we discuss all things horror.
All things horror, especially we do a Buffy series. If you like Buffy the Vampire Slayer, check that out as well. And then check out my channel, Chadwick Webb, where we rank a lot of different stuff. And also check out the Dill Pickle Movie Network, where I do a show called Picture This. And we go through all the Best Picture nominees. And it's a lot of fun. And this was a lot of fun. Thank you, John. This is great.
Hey, no problem. And you can see more of these guys also on the Why We Love Horror channel. They're regulars in the Why We Love Horror Trivia League. Chad, former Just Eclipse champion. You probably watched that match. But if you made it this far in the video, like, comment, subscribe, and share. This is airing on Monday night. Thursday night, myself, Abby, and Aaron are back with Why We Love Horror. We saw stop motion this week. We'll be covering that. And then Friday night, Why We Love Horror Trivia. We got a double day. We got a team's debut match. We'll have Par for the Corpse, which is Russell Howell, Kevin Poss taking on the Cravenites, Rose Lindsay, Brandon Dunlap, and there'll be like a singles match later on. I think we're going to have Will Cohen versus Antonio Chavez. So check that out on Friday. And then next Monday, we'll be right back here with another episode of John Versus. I'm covering the sequel, Amity Scarecrow 2, and I'm making Bill Carriola watch both of them. So we'll see you guys next week. This has been John Versus.